معايير الشبكة العالمية للمدن المراعية للسن، وكانت هذه هي الحصر. طبعا في بداية نشكر دائرة الإحصاء والتنمية المجتمعية، حيث ساعدونا في عمل تقييم. يعني احنا أخذنا هذه المعايير اللي هي مطلوبة منا من الشبكة العالمية، وعملنا عليها تقييم أولي أو ما يسمى بالبيز لاين أسسمنت، علشان في الإمارة نعرف وضع الإمارة بالنسبة للمعايير الكلية. بمحور النقل طلعت النتائج كالتالي: إنه 62% من المحاور متوفرة في إمارة الشارقة. في عنا نسبة 33% من المحاور بحاجة إلى تحسين. طبعا ممكن بعض الدول هي تكتفي، لكن احنا يمكن في نهج يعني ترتسمه الشارقة ونهج في دولة الإمارات إنه لا نرضى بخدمة عادية. في هناك طموح كبير، في هناك توجه إنه الخدمات تفوق توقعات المستفيدين من الخدمة. لهذا السبب احنا استحدثنا ما يسمى بخدمات تحتاج إلى تحسين. كذلك لاحظنا من جميع من المعايير غير متوفرة في إمارة الشارقة. اوكي خبروني انه لازم انا اكون سريعة، بس للاسف في اشياء ما اشتغلت. طيب حنعطيكم بس فكرة سريعة عن اهم النقل المتوفرة في إمارة الشارقة. قبل هيك رح نعرف انه الشارقة يمكن من يعني كليتنا من سكان الشارقة نعرف انه الشارقة فيها شبكة مميزة من الطرق والمواصلات والإضاءة. دائما السرعة تتراوح بين 40 إلى 70 في الطرق الداخلية، وبالخارجية من 100 إلى 120. يوجد هناك نظام صارم للمرور واحترام الطريق. توجد حافلات عامة تربط مدينة الشارقة والضواحي والمناطق. هناك شركة مواصلات الشارقة اللي طبعا هي المشرفة على وسائل النقل في الإمارة، وهذا يجعل توفر وتنوع وسائل النقل طريقة سهلة للمقيمين ومن جميع السكان. كذلك أطلقت هيئة الطرق والمواصلات، طبعا هذا المحور أكثر شيء تقوم فيه هيئة الطرق والمواصلات في إمارة الشارقة. تم إطلاق خدمة الواي فاي بالحافلات. تم إصدار أو وضع رقم مجاني في حال وجود أي شكوى أو أي استفسار يمكن اللجوء إلى الرقم المجاني. كذلك شيء مميز، أنا نفسي أنا من الشارقة بس ما كنت أعرف إنه الخدمة متوفرة. أطلقت هيئة الطرق والمواصلات بالشارقة كتيب. هذا الكتيب مثل كود اوف اثكس، هذا يحدد الصلاحية، يحدد الواجبات والحقوق للسائق وللراكب. أنا بنفسي واحدة من الناس ما كنت أعرف إنه هذا الجايد متوفر في إمارة الشارقة. كذلك استحدثت هيئة الطرق والمواصلات كذلك كتيب إرشادي عن سلامة الطرق، وسموه بشارجة تاكسي أليرت. وأنا وضعت الويب سايت أو اللينك في حال أي شخص حب إنه ياخذ معلومات إضافية ممكن يدخل على هذا اللينك. في كذلك شيء مميز بالشارقة إنه معظم طرق الشارقة هي طرق مضاءة، والشيء المميز الأكثر إنه الشارقة الآن استحدثت نظام الإضاءة بالطاقة الشمسية بدل من الطاقة العادية، من أجل تقليل، هذه هي المثال، من أجل تقليل استخدام مصابيح الصوديوم. فالآن الإنارة في شوارع الشارقة باستخدام الطاقة الشمسية. وطبعا هيئة الكهرباء ومياه الشارقة عندهم خطة متكاملة ل يعني تعميم هذه التجربة في جميع الطرق في إمارة الشارقة، وإحلال طبعا الطريقة التقليدية بالإضاءة. نظام الأجرة في الشارقة عندنا نظام متنوع للأجرة، في نظام خاص للنساء، في كبار السن وذوي الإعاقة، وفي عندنا كذلك للأسر والعوائل، وكذلك للنساء في لهم خدمات متميزة. كذلك في توفر الشارقة خدمات نقل لكبار السن وذوي الإعاقة، وكذلك من خلال اللجوء إلى الرقم المجاني لطلب هذه الخدمة. كذلك من إحدى المعايير المطلوبة من منظمة الصحة العالمية وجود تعرفة وكمان من خلال البحث وجدنا أن جميع وسائل النقل في إمارة الشارقة توجد فيها تعرفة تحدد يعني المبالغ، تحدد الحقوق كذلك والواجبات للسائق وللراكب، وهذا مثال على التعرفة. المبادرات المستقبلية، طبعا الشارقة إمارة طموحة ودائما احنا نأمل في التطوير وتحسين الخدمات، ومن هذه الخدمات اعتماد وتخصيص مواقف لكبار السن. حاليا نحن أكثر شيء يمكن كان الاهتمام بذوي الإعاقة، ولكن ضمن الخطة الاستراتيجية للبرنامج أنه يتم إضافة شعار كبير السن ضمن مواقف السيارات الخاصة بذوي الإعاقة. هذا الشيء ما كان موجود، ولكن بسبب هذا البرنامج سيتم استحداثه. منح خصومات خاصة لكبار السن، هذه من الخطط المستقبلية. توفير خدمات النقل لطريح الفراش. أي شخص كبير في إمارة الشارقة من إحدى الخدمات اللي هي طرحت حاليا أنه إذا طلب أو عنده مثلا موعد أو يحتاج إلى الوصول لشيء طارئ، مثلا مواعيد مستشفى أو مواعيد عيادة، في رقم مجاني ممكن يتم الاتصال فيه وتأتيه يأتيه وسيلة النقل إلى منزله وتوصيله إلى الجهة اللي هو معني فيها أو يرغب في الوصول إليها. شيء جدا مميز بالشارقة يعني ما بنقدر إنه إحنا ننكره هو وجود العيادات المتنقلة، وإحنا وأبلود يعني طرحنا هذه الخدمة على موقع الشبكة وهي عيادات متنقلة. هذه العيادات المتنقلة تذهب إلى كبير السن وتجوب إمارة الشارقة والمناطق والضواحي، وليس فقط يعني من عدة جهات، منها دائرة الخدمات الاجتماعية، في عندنا القافلة الوردية من أجل الفحص المبكر للسرطان، العلاج الطبيعي، الأسنان، بالتعاون مع جهات متعددة على مستوى إمارة الشارقة. ما راح أتكلم عن التحديات، يمكن بنهاية السيشن إنه نشوف شو هي التحديات اللي واجهتنا إحنا في إمارة الشارقة. الشيء بس نحب أذكره إنه برنامج المدن الصحية أو المدن المراعية للسن هو برنامج نوعا ما جديد على إمارة الشارقة كانضمام، ولكن كممارسات توجد ممارسات سابقة. المكتب التنفيذي تم تأسيسه في جون 2017، وطبعا توجد لدينا خطة استراتيجية احنا نقوم على متابعتها. بتمنى كنت أغطي أكبر، بس أعتقد الوقت والتايم مش مساعدنا، فإن شاء الله في السيشنز الأخرى ممكن كان نحن نسلط الضوء أكثر عليها. I try to be. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, and apologies for the technical issues and also for rushing the time. I think we're going to have Jessica next. I have the clicker here. I'll bring it to you. So yeah, just to say thank you for it's an interesting overview of the services available here in our local context. So yeah, Jessica. And then I don't think we'll have time for questions, to be honest, but anybody who wants to find out any more information, you're welcome to come up to us during the other sessions or during the breaks.
Hello everybody. So firstly, thank you everybody for the warm welcome that we've received. It's been lovely. And my name's Jessica Entwistle and I'm from the Centre for Ageing Better. So our main aim is to create a better later life for all, and I work with the UK network of age-friendly communities. So my presentation is going to have a focus on buses and looking at how you make buses age-friendly. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is actually what older people in the UK tell us. And what they do tell us is that public transport is one of the biggest issues for older people locally in the UK. And that's for a number of reasons. Affordability, buses can often be very expensive. Accessibility, people don't always get on them easily and they're not maybe accessible for them. The attitudes of drivers are very important and that people feel supported by them. People may lack confidence, specifically older passengers, and not feel confident getting on the buses. And also the bus routes can often be a problem. So actually, not all the buses go where people want to go at the right times. So in terms of affordability, I'm going to talk a little bit about a national scheme we have, which actually supports with age-friendly. So in the UK, we have the National Concessionary Travel Scheme. That means that you get a free bus pass when you turn pensionable age, which is 60 to 65 years. That bus pass will let you have free travel on any local bus from 9:30 in the morning. It's funded for a national government, but it's administered at the local level. It really does make a huge importance to the amount of bus journeys we see by older adults in the UK. An example of this is that in England alone, last year we had 4.5 billion bus journeys, and 34% of those were by people in later life with disabilities or travelling with the concessionary bus pass. It's been in place for a number of years and has been established since 2001. So that's some of our national work around age-friendly. But we also have our age-friendly communities, and they look at buses very regularly locally. And there's a number of ways that people actually look at this and the different approaches that they take. So a number of places have looked at charters. So a charter is a set of statements co-designed with older people about change they really want to see happen in their place, something that they want to see make their lives better. These are then published, and they're used as a lever for change. Older people and organisations can take these charters to the bus companies and clearly say what they want to see happen. Another model is through training. So some areas have done bespoke training specifically for bus drivers. And finally, quite a few places have started looking at tailored resources. So an example of that would be safer journey cards. Safer journey cards are small cards that would discreetly go in your wallet or with a bus pass that would show if you were having any disability or anything that you needed support with. You could then show this to a bus driver and they would be able to support you if needed. So you might find one that says, I'm hard of hearing or I'm prone to falling. So I'm going to give a key example. I'm going to look at the Isle of Wight and their age-friendly project on buses. So this was twofold. They had two elements to it. The first was age training. So they delivered and designed a free 2-hour age-friendly training for bus drivers. It was around understanding the needs and how best to support older passengers. It was delivered by a local ageing charity, and everything about it was free. They approached a bus company and spoke to them about training and getting them to buy in to deliver it to drivers. But what was also key is it's not just about the drivers. There are other large cohorts that use buses that need to know to be respectful and how to support. So they also rolled this training out to schools. So they also rolled it out to schools, students as well. Alongside this, they designed the Safer Journey cards so that actually when they showed somebody those cards that said about, I've got a disability or a need, the bus driver felt empowered and felt well equipped to be able to best support them. So in terms of who was involved and how did this project work and how would you get something similar started, there was a number of different groups of people that were engaged and involved with this work. So firstly, the key element was citizens. Older people's forums were very important to designing what happened when and what they actually wanted to see happen and what bus drivers should be learning. Older bus users would share their experiences and the bad practice they had seen or the bad instances they had had. And school students would also engage with the work, looking at how they could access the training. The bus companies were heavily involved, and they were involved at all levels. So you had the drivers themselves taking part in the training. You had operational managers delivering the training and helping support it. And then the strategic managers of the bus company would embed it into their policy. So that's what they did, and that's what carried out through the organisation. Statutory providers also helped with the work. In the UK, schools are based within the government, so the schools would actually help and support with getting that training to students. The communications team from the local government would look at how they could promote it locally and let people know that this was happening. And then of this work. So the Older People's Charity helped to coordinate the work, lead it, get the buy-in, coordinate all those different stakeholders, and they also would deliver the first instance of the training. There was also intergen officers within the voluntary sector that were helping with this. So in terms of this work, as you would imagine, one of the biggest things when working on transport with buses with older people was managing expectations. The reality is if you go to a group of older people, lots of people will say they want a specific bus route going at a specific time for them, and that's not sustainable or very easy to achieve. So it's really important that when you're talking about buses and how you help older people, that you really set the parameters. You say what is and what you can do and what you can't do, so that older people know what you were discussing and what change you can make happen. Creating a common understanding was also quite difficult. They found locally on the Isle of Wight that some bus drivers didn't want to engage. They didn't understand the need. They thought they knew information already. They didn't think it was as big an issue as it was. So it was really key that actually at the start of that training, in that first module, you talked about the worth and the importance and gave some really interesting case studies about what difference it can make and how people feel travelling. They've had some great success on the Isle of Wight, so they've had some really good achievements. The Isle of Wight is one part of a region that this bus company works in. They have now rolled this out across their whole region, whether that's doing age-friendly or not, and the bus drivers have actually included it as part of the professional development of all drivers. So what that means is that any new driver that actually comes onto the company, they must do age-friendly training as part of their induction. The bus company has also reported a reduction in falls since the initiative has come in. So they contacted their insurance company to see what happened, and they found that they were getting less claims about falls and they were having less falls reported across their service. So in conclusion, when speaking to the Isle of Wight, they had a few recommendations about what worked and things that were really key to this work. So firstly, it was identifying key champions in the bus company. The reality is that you don't always need to go for a strategic manager. Sometimes what you need to do is access the person that everyone listens to. In this example, it was an administrator that acted as a PA to the exec team, but also had the respect and spoke to the bus drivers regularly. What that meant was that everybody in the organisation really listened to this individual, and they were a key driver in actually getting it put across the whole company. And the other recommendation is that the evidence was key. So it's all very well and good doing these practices, but when you're working with private companies, what they want to know is so what? What's happened? What's changed? And actually being able to prove that falls had reduced and that had made a big difference to their financial income really, really benefited. Obviously, they wanted to help their older passengers, but they also are a private company, so they have other incentives. And I think the key thing to take away from age-friendly bus work, really, is that it doesn't all have to be about infrastructure change. You can do things that form cultural changes in an organisation that can really change people's and passengers' experiences on buses.
Brilliant, thank you.
And if we could keep the presentations to around 10 minutes, that would be great. If we could get Christine's presentation ready to go, I'll bring Christine up now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this invitation to visit Sharjah, and I've really appreciated the very warm welcome that I've received while here. So, as Greg introduced me, I'm talking about the city of Melville, where I work, but I'm also talking about the state of Western Australia. And I will give you just some context. It's a big state. We have over 2.5 million square kilometres of land. In lots of ways, the landscape is similar to what I've seen around Sharjah, and I imagine we have a few of the similar challenges, particularly around water. We only have 2.5 million people, and most of those people live in our capital city in Perth, which you can see in the southwest of the state. Our older population at the moment is around 19%, expected to grow to 26% in 2050. The vast majority of those live in the metropolitan area of Perth, and that's where the city I come from is also located. We do have around 27% of people that live in country regions, and that presents some challenging situations for us because many of those communities are very small with a few hundred people, and some of those communities are isolated Aboriginal communities, our Indigenous people. Of our older people, we also have 50% were born out of Australia, so very much a country of migration, and of that percentage, around 18% come from countries who don't have English as their first language, which again is something that we need to keep in mind. So the city that I'm from, which is part of the greater city of, or the metropolitan area of Perth, has around 106,000 people, but we already have 25% of people over 65. We also have a high number of people living alone, around 23%. And we have around about 19% of people born overseas. And of those, our main language groups are Chinese, both Mandarin and Cantonese, Italian and Indonesian. And we have a small group of Aboriginal Indigenous people within our community. We've been on this journey, as Greg said, since the beginning. So we're coming up to 10 years, and we're undertaking our review of our third age-friendly communities plan, and that should be completed by the end of the year. I've just listed our priorities here for you to see, and housing is one of those. And since we started this journey, our priorities haven't changed, which is quite interesting. Different emerging issues from each of those priorities come to light when we do the engagement work, but they haven't particularly changed at all. There's a lot of text here, so I'll keep it very brief, but this is giving you an idea that in our plan we had, under the housing action, we had a number of actions that we saw as important after listening to our older people. And I'll just have a quick look at some of those, because it wasn't all about us providing them. In some situations it was us as the local government, as the municipality, advocating with relevant agencies to have an increase in what we'd call nursing home care facilities, to ensure that our local town planning schemes, and I'll be talking a little bit about those, provide enough opportunities to meet the needs of our ageing population in terms of housing, to look at accessibility and connections to community services so that people can age in their homes with all those support services around. Some of the challenges that we've heard in our last engagement process is that older people are really clear about wanting housing that's near shops, transport services and their family and friends. There is I guess we're also hearing that they're worried about having sufficient opportunities to continue to age in their city with appropriate residential care or nursing home care if they need that. We're also hearing that people want smaller dwellings, and the city that I come from in Australia is very typical of Australia, that people would have often had a quarter of an acre block with one dwelling, and as over time they would have raised their children in those homes. What's happened, the population has increased, the pressure that has come to mean that we need to look at increased density to accommodate everyone, so that people talk about this notion of downsizing, of wanting to be able to sell that property but move to somewhere that's accessible, that's still in the same neighbourhood, because that's their place of, I guess, of connection, that they want to remain there. So they've really been saying clearly to us, set things up for us with any relevant urban planning processes so that we can stay in our local neighbourhoods, and alternatively, if we want to stay in our own homes, ensure that there's sufficient services for that to happen. The other key piece of work, which I'll just talk very briefly about, is at the state level. In the state of Western Australia, they've almost released a state seniors housing strategy. And some of the issues and the challenges that that's brought to light are pretty similar to what we've heard as a city. One of the main ones is around affordability, because as people age, the majority of people in Western Australia and Australia over 65 are on low fixed incomes, which are government pensions, or they may be living on retirement funds. There's issues with security of tenure if they're in the private rental market. There's a lack of diversity of housing, and that's that notion again that people want a range of options. They just don't want the standalone house, they want the option of having a smaller apartment or other types of housing. Housing design that does not support ageing in place, and I guess they're the simple things, or not simple things, but where homes are designed and perhaps have inaccessible bathrooms or toilets as people age. And again, that message of wanting access to support networks and also information and support around housing. This is just a quick sketch, and I don't know if there's anyone here that's familiar with urban planning, but this is what we call our local planning strategy, which is a legislative requirement, I guess, in many places around the world, to, I guess, influence our urban planners, telling them this information that we hear from older people so that they can ensure that in particular neighbourhoods the mechanisms are in place to give people that option to have diversity in the type of housing or dwelling that they want. So we also look at having higher density around those transport nodes where there's trains and buses and shops and hospital facilities. So some of the responses also from the urban planning area around a local housing strategy for the city that I work for is that variety of lot sizes and housing types. And again, as I just mentioned, having strategically located opportunities, if you like, where people are still near transport hubs and community facilities. One of the challenges for us is that because we're a developed urban city, we don't have spare land. So in Australia too, around about 9% of people age in retirement villages or places where they may be gated communities where people live in their own independent dwellings. Because we don't have more additional land for that, we've had to think differently about how can we provide options without going to that particular option. So that is around the home support and transport services to enable people to age in place. Particularly, we've found improving education of seniors, and we heard earlier today that good question about people having to start almost now, but certainly around beginning to look at thinking in their 50s or early 60s in terms of what sort of housing do I need, rather than waiting for a crisis situation to try and make that decision. Okay, that's okay. There's some of the others there around universal design, and the other important one for us is around this notion of encouraging what we call ancillary dwellings, and that's a secondary dwelling that may be built on an existing house lot. So you may have a house, but this gives you the permission to have a smaller dwelling on the same block of land that often accommodates an older relative or parents and such like. On a practical level, the City of Melbourne for over 10 years now has had a fund called a Seniors Assistance Fund, which provides, it's a brokerage model of a budget of 100,000 Australian dollars a year, which is made available to assist people living in their own homes that in other ways might have fallen through the gaps. So if they require some minor home modifications or assistive equipment or assistance with gardening, this fund will pay for that to support them to stay in their own homes. It helps around about 150 people a year. The other thing we do is we do a lot of provision of information, and we run regular forums, seminars, and we particularly have a focus on housing. So we would invite people to come and speak to older people. We generally get around 150 people to those sessions. That could be looking at options for housing, retirement villages, explaining residential care or nursing home situations. We find that seniors or older people are very interested in getting that information, and they're well attended. On the state level, a significant engagement went into the development of the seniors housing strategy, and that was with older people, state and local government agencies, industry and the community services sector. I thought I'd just share with you very quickly some of the recommendations that the state will be investigating. So there again is that first one around looking at early intervention strategies, encourage people in their 40s to start thinking about and planning for their housing post-retirement. Also looking at tools and resources to help people make those decisions, and looking at innovative housing solutions such as home share options, intergenerational living and co-housing options. They're also looking at introducing targets into the public housing sector so that there's enough properties built to accommodate people as they age, and also looking at ways that people are able to influence the government assets to deliver appropriate and affordable housing. You can find some more information available at those websites on both those, but I hope you found that interesting or useful in terms of looking at a municipality approach as well as that state level approach, and how they're quite similar and connected and coordinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. If Stephanie could come to the podium and give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here and to learn more about your culture, and want to share with you a little bit about some lifelong housing challenges and solutions that we have in the United States. So one of our challenges is that we found almost 60% of 50 plus in the United States live in single-family detached homes. These homes may be too large, too expensive, and too automobile dependent for people as they are aging. And so I just want to tell you one story. It's a story about my next door neighbor. This is Leonard's house. He's 92 years old. When I moved in next door about 14 years ago, his adult children had just moved him down to the bottom floor of his house because he had fallen and he had a hip fracture. So he could no longer get up on the stairs. So what they did is they created a little kitchenette down on the bottom floor, and they created everything so that he could live down there. And essentially Leonard has not seen the top story of his house in over a decade. Perhaps some of the homes in your region that have more than one floor pose similar challenges to people with increasing limited mobility. The AARP has had this as a focus for years, in part because surveys that we've done show that almost 90% of older adults say they want to age in their homes or communities for as long as possible. And in fact, recent studies have found that aging in place can lead to better health outcomes, can lead to better life satisfaction, and higher self-esteem compared with aging in a nursing home or other institution. We've also had other studies that show that essentially providing health and other services and supports in somebody's home costs about a third of what it costs in an institutional setting. I'm going to skip a few slides in the interest of time and go to something that I understand is a priority in Sharjah's strategic plan. What if a person wants to stay in their home or live independently, like I said, regardless of his age or physical ability? What if they could do just that? How do we make that happen? So the best way to ensure that nearly any type of housing can be accessible for people across their lifespans is by incorporating design principles and products that are adaptable and that are safe and that are easy to use. We do this through universal design, which is truly universal in nature, in the sense that even though our cultures may be different, we have some very similar challenges, as I pointed out. We also want to ensure that all people feel comfortable when they visit different countries, regardless of their abilities. So that's another reason to do this. So universal design is an approach essentially to designing products and services and environments that are universal and appropriate for all people regardless of their age, regardless of their physical or cognitive or sensory impairments or any other kinds of limitation. This is one example, a no-step entry into a home. Quickly, I'll run through a few more. Levered handles instead of doorknobs. Sometimes grabbing and turning a doorknob becomes a challenge as we age and have physical limitations. Railings for stability. Falls, we know, are a prevalent cause of injury in older adults. In fact, in the United States, falls are responsible for 68% of hospitalizations in older adults. And these kind of modifications like railings and grab bars, etc., can reduce the risk of falls that require medical treatment by about 20 percentage points. We talked earlier about universal design that's good for all ages. So wider doorways can be very helpful, not just to older people, but to someone with a stroller, to people who are bringing in large bags or packages into their home. And wider hallways as well. We talk about flooring and slip resistance. So hardwood flooring is a good example, textured tile or bamboo, other kinds of slip-resistant flooring. In the kitchen, you might want to have lower or varied countertop heights. You want to have easy-to-reach appliances with front-facing controls. You want to have easy-to-grab handles and pull-down shelving. You could want to have shelves and drawers that extend, like this picture of the carousel, and even appliances inside drawers like this microwave. In the bathroom, you want to have, again, a step-free shower and slip-resistant flooring. You want to have support rails in multiple places, or at least have blocking in the walls so that you can add grab bars later. And you want to have handheld adjustable shower heads. There are also some more specialized adaptations you may want to make in the home, things like layered lighting for the vision impaired. So you want to have sort of task spot lighting, particularly in the kitchen or the bathroom, and even adaptations for hearing impaired. So you want to have maybe a smoke alarm that has lights as well. And finally, I want to mention assistive technology. So advances in smart devices or smart homes add to our ability to meet individual needs and help residents remain in a healthy and safe environment, as well as connected with others outside their home. So for example, systems for monitoring chronic diseases like diabetes or congestive heart failure, those allow patients to provide their vitals to caregivers or to doctors outside the home. I'm also aware from a colleague of mine in Washington, D.C., that a group from Dubai came and visited their center to learn as they were developing an assistive technology program. Assistive technology is becoming a very fast-growing industry. In fact, the market for remote monitoring alone is estimated to grow from $10.6 billion in 2012 to $21.2 billion in 2017. AARP has a number of resources to help you implement these kinds of universal design principles in homes. So I'm going to go through a couple of them. One of them is the AARP Home Fit Guide. It's an educational resource and a personalized toolkit, and it's free and it's online. It's also been published, and this is a copy of it, and I actually have sent a box of these, and Asma will make them available to you if you're interested. The guide provides lessons and practical solutions and shows how it's possible to do this with smartly designed features that are attractive and stylish and that come at a variety of price points. The Home Fit Guide essentially goes through the house, through the kitchen and the bathroom and the stairwells and living room and all of the other places in the home, and has worksheets to help you to put in place the ideas that are discussed in the guide. A second example is another online tool called Future of Housing. So in 2016, last year, AARP held a contest that challenged architects and designers to essentially generate universal design elements and build a home of the future that is attractive and affordable and that's adaptable, so that people can stay in their home throughout a variety of life stages. Essentially, there was a home in Memphis, Tennessee. Sorry, that's in the picture, that was used and given over to these architects and designers to design the remodel for, and they were given a certain limited budget as well so that it would be affordable. And the winning design got chosen, and they actually implemented it in this home, and then this home was awarded to a needy military veteran family. The leading submissions, though, in addition to the one that won, were also used to develop a toolkit that's online. The toolkit demonstrates how individuals can make affordable modifications to homes and make them more accessible. It also talks about how communities can encourage the adoption of these kinds of features by establishing policies that support accessibility. And the guides offer solutions that range from sort of simple do-it-yourself fixes to other improvements that actually might require some skilled expertise. So I want to talk a little bit about a Certified Aging in Place Specialist, or CAPS program. The National Association of Home Builders, in collaboration with AARP and other experts, developed this CAPS designation. It's a training program that essentially provides technical training, so learning about the unique needs of the older adult population and common barriers and solutions. It provides training in business management skills and training in customer service skills. So these are essential tools for competing for aging in place remodeling work, which essentially is the fastest growing segment of the residential remodeling industry today. And finally, I want to talk about the Lifelong Housing Certification Project. This essentially takes these universal design concepts and brings them to the marketplace. So this is a voluntary evaluation program that provides a way to assess the age friendliness and accessibility of a home, both newly constructed homes and existing homes. It helps that marketplace respond to this growing demand. So the program includes a checklist of features and levels of certification based on universal design concepts. Level 1 is visitor accessible or visitable. That means someone in a wheelchair, your guest, could come into your home and move around and be able to access the bathroom, minimum needs. Level 2 is fully accessible, the entire primary living area being accessible for lifelong living. And the third level is enhanced accessibility, which is more personalized. Once your home is certified at one of the levels, it's essentially added to this database and can be searched by realtors and by potential home buyers and renters. So this program was created by Oregon's Rogue Valley Council of Governments together with AARP Oregon, but it's also been taken nationally in some ways. It's starting to be replicated in other communities, and also the U.S. Real Estate Standards Organization. They have a database of terminology, and essentially they've imported the definitions that are used in this program checklist as standardized terminology about accessibility for all the multiple listing services around the United States. So in closing, I just want to end with perhaps one takeaway that I might want you to take from this talk, which is really that there is a lot that we can do through education, through regulatory systems, through incentives. We need to help shift the way people think about housing and to create a lifelong housing perspective. So perhaps some of the solutions presented here are applicable in your communities, and I've listed here some resources that you might want to go to take a look if they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I know we don't have any time for questions, so please join me in thanking our speakers once again. So thank you.
شكرا للمتحدثين. الورقة الأخيرة ذكرتني بشيء نوع من الريفريشن شوية. عندنا في دبل حصن شارع العقد الفريد فيه مباني حكومية، فكان في امرأة كبيرة في السن فكانت تمشي وتقول الدرج وايد صعب نطلع عليه، ليش ما تحطون لنا ستاند؟ وكان هذا المبنى هو دائرة خدمات اجتماعية، فكان أول مبنى يضع سنادات على الدرج لكبار السن، وكانت تحت إدارة أستاذة خلود. شكرا لك، وافتقدناش في دبا طبعا. حفلنا الكريم، والآن مع التوصيات النهائية لهذا اليوم فلتتفضل السيدة ألانا والسيدة أسماء الخضري لإلقائها مشكورتين.
السلام عليكم. رح نحاول نلخص مجريات اللقاء اليوم. في بعض التوصيات احنا توصلنا لها او استنتجناها من مشاركات الدول الاخرى. رح اتكلم بالانجليزي لانه انا اوريدي سجلتها باللغه الانجليزيه، بس اذا بتحتاجوا بالعربي ما عندي مشكله. I think from all this the review of what the speaker they highlighted today, I can find that any city want to enter the global network for age-friendly, I think it's a very easy process. This is what I came to know also today. For me, maybe 3 months only I am part of this program, but I found from the talk of my colleague that it's very easy process, the resources available and the support also is available. بتحب اتكلم بالانجليزي او بالعربي استمر؟ طيب. كمان ممكن احنا نعمل يعني the summary that all the stakeholder they have to cooperate and they have to coordinate together, because such programs like age-friendly programs, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So one organization cannot function alone. It needs everyone collaboration and everyone coordination and support. I found that we have to involve the elderly in any planning process, planning, implementation, even evaluation. They have to be part of this program and part of this improvement process. I think also the summary or the recommendation that today I took myself, that before starting this, keep them on the core of this program at Sharjah. I think this is the summary of my recommendation today.
Thanks, Asma. I think some great points. I've just got 5, and I thank all of you who have stayed here. One is, in addition to what Asma said, it's the need to act. I mentioned it before, but there is absolutely no excuse for not doing something. I mean, the fabulous examples of very concrete measures that you can do in housing and transportation and public spaces. I mean, this is a group of inspiring leaders working in this area, but there's no excuse for not doing something, first. Second, there needs to be innovations, I think, in the way that we think, in how we work, and in what we do. And I think that we've seen some very interesting examples that challenge the fact of the way that we think and how we engage with older adults. I think we heard that also in Hong Kong. We heard great examples from Françoise in Lyon and Stephanie. You know, really interesting, diverse ways of thinking and engaging and doing. We've heard a number of people talk about cities for all ages, but also just the great benefits of making these investments for mothers and people with disabilities and others who can invest, who can benefit. We also heard the important recommendation about it's a journey, and it's a continual journey, and on that journey we need to check in and see if we are heading in the right direction at the right speed, and that means evaluating what we do and, you know, readjusting if we're not having the sort of impact that we want to have. So measuring progress and making improvements. So, you know, and I think just to stress again the sort of the political and the technical imperative of consulting and engaging older adults in the work that we do. So I learned an enormous amount today, and I work in this area, and I found the examples really inspiring. So I want to thank everybody for that inspiration and for you for being here and engaging. Thank you.
حفلنا الكريم طويت الأوراق وانتهت الجلسات. شكرا لكم على حضوركم وتشريفكم، وإلى اللقاء في جلسات أخرى غدا بمشيئة الله سبحانه وتعالى. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهم نقطة هاي ترجموها. ندعوكم إلى وجبة الغداء. فالسلام عليكم ورحمة